We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Mark O, I like a last name that starts with O. He has a 5.1 system made up of 4 NHT Super Zeros, an NHT Super 1 center, and an SVS PB2000. He wants to upgrade the mains and center, staying under $1,000 for all three. He looked at the Media Series towers to stay with NHT, but at $700 each, they are out of his current budget. He sits about 13 feet away from his front speakers. So first, is there even anything within the budget that would be a worthwhile upgrade over the Super Zeros, or is it worth it to wait and save up for the Media Series towers?
Yeah, so I wanted to address that Media Series from NHT first, because those ones, the tower models and the bookshelf models that are found in that series, include upward firing Atmos drivers, and you have no option to buy them without those upward firing Atmos drivers. They are Dolby enabled speakers, and that's just the end of the story. If that is ultimately your plan, is to have Dolby enabled speakers with upward firing drivers, I mean, there are other choices, of course, but the Media Series are among the least expensive that still sound very good, in my opinion. So that puts one little spin on it, which is that if that is the particular combination that you want ultimately anyway, then it would kind of make sense to save up for them. But if what you want to do is get 3 new front speakers, and when you're sitting 13 feet away, I can certainly see the Super Zeros having a little bit of trouble. They're satellite speakers meant to be 8 to 10 feet sort of at most. That's where they'll sound their best. So it makes sense. For $1,000, you could certainly get, from Ascend Acoustics, you could get 3 of their CMT-340SE speakers. I really like those speakers on their own. That's under $800 for all 3. You could then add the pedestal stands, which make the front, left, right ones look like towers. And that'll still be under $1,000 even if after you add those pedestal stands. So I really like those speakers. Those would definitely be an output upgrade from the Super Zeros. They can play much, much louder. I personally would consider them an overall upgrade as well. There are certainly other ones too, though, and he actually asks about 2 that we might get to anyway a little later on. Those would be EMP Tech and Emotiva. So he is already aware of those, but yeah, all of those, certainly in terms of sheer output, easily are upgrades from the Super.
Right, so those Ascend Acoustics say 92 decibel sensitivity. That is definitely going to have solid output with a given wattage, and
they can absorb about 400 watts if you want them to. So
right, and if they're laying on their side, they are symmetrical, perfect for center.
Yeah,
and then
there actually is a dedicated center version though, where they've tweaked the crossover for that horizontal arrangement. So if you are going to have one horizontally, do get the center version. But James, did you have any other suggestions maybe in this $1,000 for 3 speakers fronts?
The mini monitors from Paradigm, the version 7 ones are good, but they start at $600 a pair. So, but I'm sure you can get something for $1,000 if you do some shopping. That's retail. Yeah, that'd be probably the first place I go if you were looking for a lot of bang, like boom, and a lot more volume output. I'd go with the Paradigms.
All right, so there's some suggestions out of those, but yeah, to answer the basic question of is there anything that can be an upgrade? Absolutely yes.
Sure. Continuing on with Mark O's questions, what about the up-firing Atmos modules in the Media Series or in other speaker lines? Are they a good way to add Atmos to his system?
We should ask Infinite Gary. He's been playing with that the past few weeks.
His experience was better with the installed speakers in the ceiling than they were the reflective speakers. Am I not right?
Well, that was sort of his ultimate conclusion. He hasn't actually tried installed speakers in his own home. But, yeah, he gave the upward firing modules, add-on modules, a good try in his own situation. Gary's conclusion was that they are an enhancement to just standard 5.1, but that actual physical overhead speakers sounds that much better, and that is widely the consensus.
Sure. Well, your ceiling is not some sort of perfect audio mirror reflecting sound perfectly from speakers that hit it. There's just no way to do that. So it's always going to be a compromise if it's up firing.
The reason I'd use the upfired one is if I had no way of getting cabling in the ceiling or up to the speakers, where you're limited for, a good cable pull.
Yep.
If you can get the cables, then I'd go with direct.
All right. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. I appreciate that Dolby developed a solution, because there are the cases where you cannot put speakers on or in your ceiling. You just can't do it. At least there's sort of, an approach to get that with the upfiring. But yeah, we're all pretty much in agreement. If you can, go with actual speakers on.
Sure. I mean, it's the same reason sound bars exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just can't get stuff in the back. That's fine. He continues on. What are our impressions of the Emotiva Airmotiv T1 and C1 versus the EMP Tech Impression Series R55 Ti?
I have not heard the new Emotiva Airmotiv passive speakers. I can go by the 2 reviews that are out there, which nothing that was said in those reviews sticks out to me as something I would seriously be skeptical about. By and large, the reviews indicated pretty darn neutral response with limited vertical dispersion. Both the reviews that I could find commented on that vertically they have quite a narrow dispersion, which makes sense when you're using a folded ribbon tweeter. Yep. That is a common characteristic of folded ribbon tweeters, is having quite a narrow vertical dispersion. So like I say, in the reviews that I read of them, there was nothing that stuck out that made me go, I don't believe that. That seems quite reasonable, neutral response, but perhaps limited vertical directivity. I do notice, though, just in the specs, they dip pretty darn low in impedance. And coming from Emotiva, not necessarily surprising, because what Emotiva likes to sell most are their own amplifiers.
Yeah.
And when you have difficult-to-drive speakers, that's a good excuse for buying a powerful amplifier to drive them. That's something I might caution people about, that they actually do dip low enough in their impedance, right down to 3 ohms. That could be a challenge for some AV receivers. So it's something to keep in mind. The EMP Tech Impression Series I have had. I think they're very, very nice for the price. They can play exceedingly loud if you have the amplifier power to do so. But yeah, they're very nice neutral speakers. As Tom and I have commented, they timbre match well with almost anything because they're so neutral. So yeah, I can vouch for the EMP Techs for sure. They're also gorgeous. I think the Emotivas are ugly, but that's one man's opinion.
Hey, no, that's worth taking into account.
Yeah, but I don't know, James, do you have any experience with either?
No, actually, either one. I haven't had any experience with them. But a folded ribbon, I've had some experience with some of them and other makes and models. And I agree with you. They do have a narrow dispersion on that. Yeah. It's just the way they are.
So there you go. Those are the impressions of those speakers.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.